You don't have beliefs, your beliefs have you, and they're running your entire life without your permission. Every opinion you hold about yourself and the world is quietly constructing the reality you live in, and the reason your life looks the way it does has nothing to do with coincidence, nothing to do with circumstance, but simply the software you are running, and most people don't even know it's there. What we're going to do in this video is we're going to break this idea down, and by the end of this you should hopefully understand how this is affecting your life and stopping you attracting the things which you so deeply desire. Those things in which you've been working so hard for, you've been hustling for, you've been manifesting, you've been visualizing, but none of that is going to work until you understand that your belief systems is absolutely everything. It's critical to changing everything you see within your outer world. Because the first thing you need to understand is that your reality is simply caused by the lens in which your belief system is viewing it through. And we often think that the world is just as it seems. It's just kind of evolving around us, and the way in which you interpret things is how they actually are, right? But that couldn't be any further from the truth, because the way in which you see the world through your innate consciousness is simply through the lens in which your intertwined web of beliefs is viewing it to see. It's like when you get a camera and you put, you go like this and you stick a little lens over it and you look a little bit different, right? It's essentially the same way. And the way I want you to break this down and visualize it is, we've all got to the end of the month and not had a lot of money left. And you've got £10 left in your bank account. And all of a sudden, everything's expensive. Everything. You're like, oh, I've got a pack of chewing gum, can't quite justify that. Maybe I won't buy that. And at that moment in time, that £10 is absolutely everything. But when payday rolls around the corner and you've had your nice little salary lumped into it, all of a sudden £10 is just a mere speck in the ocean. That £10 didn't change. The value of that currency did not change, but simply the way in which you perceived it. And then suddenly, the price of everything changed as well. And it wasn't that suddenly something that was £5 was now expensive. It was simply that in your eyes it became expensive. And when you can understand this, you can really start to understand how this boldly affects everything within your reality on a micro and on a macro scale. Because this is affecting everything. This is affecting the way in which you see opportunity, the way in which you perceive relationships, how you understand people, how things are presented in your life. When you understand that your belief system is quite literally holding you back from everything, you can begin to change that. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. Do you know who said those words? Michael Jackson. And that's going to open up the next segment of this video quite beautifully, because what we are essentially trying to do when we're trying to manifest change within our reality is we're trying to change exactly what's happening on the physical plane without looking at the mental and the spiritual. And this is the equivalent of being the man in the mirror and thinking, why is the man not changing? And if your friend said to you, why is the mirror not changing? Or you probably had a friend that says to you, I look ugly in this mirror. You have to look at them and go, the problem's not the mirror, love. The problem's you. But you're doing the same thing when it comes to trying to change your reality. Because your outer world is just a reflection of your inner world, and this is basic mentalism. And the Hermetics, who were the kind of original manifestors, the original philosophers, had this down to a T, because they had a law in, what pen should we go for? We're going to go for pink. They have a law in Hermetics called the law of, this is a shit pen, cause and effect. And an easy way to break this down is that the effect is essentially your physical reality, and the cause is always your inner reality. What is the effect of me punching? No, that's daft, Josh. The effect of me punching this is because internally I had a thought to punch the whiteboard. And everything in the universe works the same way. Everything has to have a cause to have an effect. We learned this in science. To get to the root cause of the effect, you have to look at the cause first. If you get your Bunsen burner, if you get some gas, set a light, a little spark, it's going to cause fire, right? We know that. That's cause and effect. But everything in the universe which is happening within your physical plane follows the same principle. And the cause is always a thought. And what makes up a thought? Your belief system. And we could just end this video right here because it quite literally is that simple. But when we understand for a basic psychological level that the way in which everything comes about, we're going to go orange pen again, is an action comes from an emotion, which comes from a thought. And then one step below this, a thought comes from something called your identity, right? And what makes up your identity? Well, your identity in psychological terms is known as your self-concept, and your self-concept is who you believe you are. We're going back to the beliefs thing again because this is the whole fucking point of the video, right? Your identity is a compromised makeup of all your beliefs, right? That's the belief about yourself. That's the way in which you believe the world works. It's the way in which you believe your past has been, and therefore you project that into your future, right? You've got these beliefs about yourself, and sometimes they're serving you and sometimes they're not. You're just not aware of them right now. How many times have you said to yourself, I'm not good enough to do this thing. I can't. I can't is probably the worst thing you could ever say, or this is impossible. And we all know that everything is impossible until it's possible. And by saying these words, I can't, this is hard, I can't do it, this is difficult, we are essentially saying that it is not possible for us to do that because everything starts as a thought and a belief system, right? Your identity was, I'm someone that's not capable of doing this thing. The thought was, I can't do it. The emotion was of guilt, of anger that you can't do something, of shame, and therefore the action is going to be in alignment with that. And when we understand that this is the flow in the chain of events, it really makes us question, are your beliefs shaping your reality? And we know that they are. Carl Jung spoke about this on a little bit more of a deeper level. We're going to go for the green pen. And he essentially made our consciousness look something like this. Oh, that's not a bad circle. That's not a bad circle. Your outer reality. We're going to have to go for a different pen. This one is absolutely fucking shambolic. Outer reality. And the thing in which stops us seeing our outer reality, oh my God, we can't, yeah, we can use a yellow, you can see that, is your ego, which protects you from yourself. Because the self is actually the truest innate version of you. And the truest innate version of you has God within inside you. You are actually divinely powerful. Why? Because you're God's child. However, what your ego's job is to do, which, by the way, your ego is not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's just a thing in which everyone has. That's why when you hear someone say, he's got a big ego, he's got this, they're actually technically incorrect, and they have an ego as well. And even them having that belief about someone with an ego is an egotistical trait. What your ego essentially is a compromised makeup of your belief systems. Okay? So your ego is there to protect yourself. And I use the word protect strongly because one thing you need to understand about beliefs is beliefs don't serve you, they serve themselves. And this links into neuroscience also, right? Because we need to understand that ego is all it's trying to do is use these belief systems as confirmation bias to serve itself. And that's why when you meet someone that does have an ego, you think, oh, they're just projecting this outward, and you're always doing the same thing. Someone usually has a big inflated ego to protect themselves inside because they know that they're inferior, right? But you are doing the same thing on a subconscious level all of the time. You say something's expensive, and it's not because that thing is actually expensive, it's because you perceive it as out of reach for you to afford. There's nothing to do. Nothing's expensive in this world if you've got unlimited money, but you don't have it, so you justify it as expensive. And that's an egotistical thing. Everything you do is egotistical. And when you realize that your ego is essentially the same as your identity, and your identity is the same as your self-concept, it's easy to understand how your beliefs alter this entire fucking concoction, right? Because your beliefs will constantly serve your ego, but what your ego is stopping you doing is accessing yourself. Carl Jung did go one step further, and below this he says you've got a shadow which is comprised of your anima and your animus. However, that's not something which we're going to dive into today. That's for a whole new day, right? But when you understand beliefs and how they're stopping you from actually accessing the true power in which you have within yourself, you understand, fuck, shit, maybe I need to look at my beliefs and see how they're affecting the way in which my outer reality looks, because that's all that's happening, right? Nothing in this outer world is actually as it seems. It's simply how your ego perceives it, and your ego is a compromisation, there we go, of the beliefs in which you hold. Now, you science nerds, you're going to absolutely wet your pants over this, because neuroscience proves this just through a slightly different angle, but it means the same thing. So I'm going to go back to this drawing in which I've illustrated as you, the lens in which you see your reality, and how this is actually compromised of your belief system. But in neuroscience, what you would actually call this is your RAS, which is your reticular activating system, right? Activating system. And your reticular activating system's job is to basically filter out what you see and how you see it. Now, your reticular activating system is linked to your nervous system, okay? So we're going to put CNS down, central nervous system. Your central nervous system is essentially your brain, the neurons in your body, goes up your spinal cord, and it branches out into loads of different areas, and it's always in communication with your body, right? But I thought I drew red pen on my top. That's a miracle that didn't happen. But your central nervous system job is essentially the same as your self-concept, it's the same as your identity, it's the same as your ego, it's all the same thing, because your nervous system job is to protect the body. And you have to ask yourself, what is the nervous system protecting the body of? Anything in which doesn't agree with the current fundamentals in which the body holds. What are those fundamentals? The beliefs. And that's why you feel this sense of anxiety, this nervousness when you're faced to do something that you haven't done before. It's not that this thing is scary, it's the fact that you haven't experienced it before, and your nervous system is projecting those fears of anxiety and elevated heart rate, nervousness, you sweat a little bit, simply because it's unsure of what that thing will do to the body. Okay? And that will then alter the way in which your brain sees the world. And like I said, I'm going to keep going back to this idea. It's not that this thing has got your best interest in mind. It's got itself as its best interest in mind. Your nervous system's job is to protect it and hold it in one state. That's what homeostasis is. It's getting your body back to an equilibrium. And your nervous system has an equilibrium of its own. And that's maintaining everything in this perfect order and harmony to stop anything else changing it, right? Your nervous system doesn't want to change. It wants to protect you and keep you safe, right? So your brain will see everything in your outer reality. I'm going to put outer here because it's just bugging me that I haven't got that done in that way. One thing I want to say on the red pen front is I actually meant to use my other red pen, but my dog has absolutely annihilated it. Pocahontas, you naughty girl. She's down there watching me. Your reticular activating system is perceiving and filtering out all the things in which you don't want to see and all the things you do want to see. But it's nothing to do with what you want, it's what your body wants, right? And this is why people find themselves stuck in the same cycle over and over and over, right? Because you see the same problems. These problems come back and you see more of them, right? And this is neuroplasticity as well, because neuroscience is essentially how the neurons in your body are firing. Neuroplasticity, bit of a mouthful, proves this one step further, right? Because neuroplasticity's job is, let's get rid of this diagram right here. Neuroplasticity's job in the body is to make decisions, thoughts, and actions more metabolically easy, cheaper, because your body only has a finite amount of energy. So it's basically trying to streamline things through neuron connection. And one thing we need to realize that neurons that fire together wire together. And neuron pathways are essentially like a path in a forest. Okay, and we've all been on like a nature trail through a forest, and we've all taken the path that everyone else has taken because it's easiest. We know that path, we know it's familiar, we know it's safe, we know that other people have gone that way, so it can't be that hard, and it must be the way to go. But your brain works the same way, right? So when your brain starts forming these thought patterns to protect itself and protect those beliefs, you will go down these naturally, time and time again. Why? Because it's cheaper metabolically, calorific-wise, it's also cheaper. It requires less cognitive load because you don't have to think things through. And this is how habit works, right? When you get out of bed, you get out of bed on the same side. You brush your teeth with the same hand. You then go and make the coffee the same way. You put the same amount of coffee in the mug. Everything's done the same way, and this is because this is the way in which your brain is designed. It's designed to do things in the easiest, most accessible, and the simple way to save energy and cognitive load for other harder tasks in which your brain has to face throughout the day. But this is neuroplasticity. So your brain is going to take this path. And this is why beliefs feel so hard to break, because all beliefs are is a thought pattern. And a thought pattern that keeps doing the same thing time and time again is going to feel more natural. However, when we want to take a path that hasn't maybe been created before, this path is going to have shrubs on it, it's going to have trees on it. I'm going to go back to the forest analogy. It's going to have long grass. This requires a lot of effort compared to the trail, which has been taken time and time again. It's literally harder to install new beliefs than to follow the same ones, despite the fact that we know that we need these new beliefs and that the old ones are not serving us anymore. Because your brain will go through the same process. That's why you think the same negative thoughts, you think the same things, and they're automatic. You don't even realize you're doing it. You can't catch yourself thinking about these beliefs because it's become so normalized because of neuroplasticity. Because the way in which you think gets reaffirmed time and time again. Your activating system sees the same things, it reaffirms back to the nervous system, the identity, the self-concept, your frequency on a metaphysics level, which we'll dive into afterwards. And as a result, it confirms it again, it confirms it again, it confirms it again, and it will stop taking this path. That's why a new habit is very, very hard. You try and stop smoking, you try and stop alcohol, you try and stop these behaviors, you try and say, yep, I'm going to get up at this time. It's difficult because your brain is used to taking this trail time and time again, and to take the new one, it doesn't want to do that because it's metabolically harder. Okay, and that's how neuroplasticity makes this process even harder. Beliefs are then seen within your reality as further evidence, and changing them gets harder and harder through the reticular activating system. If you constantly see something and think that's too expensive because you haven't got enough money in your bank account, that thing's always going to be expensive. And that's just a thought process and a pattern. But if you can have more money, right, or you live in this feeling of abundance, then suddenly that thing isn't expensive anymore, you just don't have the means of affording it. Do you see how this works? Do you see how neuroplasticity aids into this? And when we can understand that, we can understand why this is hard to change, and then we can start breaking it down, changing it, and then changing our belief system as a byproduct of that. Neville Goddard said that consciousness is the only reality. What you assume to be true about yourself will harden into fact. And you've been taught this process the wrong way your entire life, and this has nothing to do with your fault. This is just the way in which 99% of people view the world, because we think that our outer reality controls our inner reality, but we've actually got this the complete way around, because our inner reality controls our outer. And if from a young age you've been programmed by your parents, by peers, by your environments and people around you to believe that everything outside of you is just a result of who you are, that takes away the control in which you have. But going back to what we said at the start of the video, you are the universe. The universe quite literally is you, and your consciousness is what defines that, okay? So when we start to believe that our inner state actually causes our outer state, that gives us a great amount of power. And then we can start to change that, because your inner reality is simply your belief systems. But what you've allowed to dictate your entire life is your outer reality, which has created the belief systems, which fuels this further. And then people get stuck in this limbo of it actually going this way. Their outer reality causes their inner, and then their inner believes it to be a certain way, which manifests that one step further. And again, I'm going to bring you back to Hermetic philosophy. And this is what they say within the Kabbalion, and I bring this up in every single video because it's so crucial. As above, so below. Everything in which you see above in your physical plane, in your physical reality, is simply a manifestation from what's going on within. And that's why, and I use this example all the time as well, if your physical space is messy, it's cluttered, it's unorganized, that's quite literally because your brain is. So you probably think to yourself sometimes, oh, like everything's a mess, and I'm stressed about this, I'm stressed about that. Your physical space is just a manifestation of that. It's nothing to do with the place was a mess and then your brain was a mess. It was your brain was a mess and that manifested your physical space to be a mess around you. It follows this same pattern. We just haven't been taught that. So we blame everything going on around outside us, despite the fact that we created that. Even something as simple as disease. We think disease gets us. We think disease is ruining our life and it's changing everything and it's ruining our health. But one thing in which we need to realize is that this is quite literally is shortened to this ease. You are in a state of unease. What is this ease? It is stress. Stress manifests itself within the body. Your body doesn't perceive anything going on outside of it, simply in what's going on within inside of its perception of that. Right? And this is how illnesses manifest. This is why people that seem to be always unhappy, always a little bit miserable, always think the world's conspiring against us, they're always ill. They've always got something going on. They have autoimmune disease. Autoimmune disease is simply the body attacking itself. Why is the body attacking itself? Because of feelings and emotional states which have been cultivated within inside it that the body has held. We always think, going back to something else, similar to the point in which I've mentioned, that the body leads the mind. We think that being sick then makes you feel sick inside, but what we fail to recognize is that the mind actually leads the body. If you cultivate the feeling of health, vitality, joy, love, togetherness, unity, guess what? Your body is going to be a manifestation of that. Have you ever thought to yourself, when summer hits, I never get ill? Is it anything to do with the weather? Is it anything to do with vitamin D? Quite possibly, maybe a small part. But because the weather's out, you've got a tan, you're exercising more, you've lost a little bit of weight for summer, you feel better, you don't get ill. Which way round is it? Is it the fact that winter comes and all of a sudden you're all snuffly? Or is it the fact that you don't feel as good in winter, you're pale, things aren't going as well, a little bit cold outside, you know, you're like, oh, this time of year is miserable, everyone gets sick. Think about it. Now, before we bounce into this beautiful 4-step framework, which is why you're all here, it's all because you want to know exactly how you can start removing your old beliefs, installing new ones to then enjoy the manifestations of the reality in which you truly desire. But before we do that, there's one belief which I want you to take on board. And if there's one thing you take away from this entire video, it's this. And Neville Goddard spoke about this profoundly. He said, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. We know that like attracts like. We know how the law of attraction works. We know that we attract what you are. But why do you keep putting out feelings which aren't in alignment with the things of which you want? And we've understood how this manifests today because we know that your entire life you've been taught that your outer reality determines your inner state. But as we know, it's actually your inner state which cultivates your outer reality. And when you get stuck in this cycle that doesn't serve you, it's very hard to break out of it because your reality is showing you the same thing in which you think that that thing is actually occurring, and therefore it replays it over and manifests it within your reality time and time again. And that's why everyone tries to change their outer reality first without trying to change their inner. You need to change your inner state to be in alignment with the things in which you want, otherwise you won't be able to attract those. Once you learn that you can control how you feel right now and change the emotional state in which you're in, you quite literally will change the way in which the universe is cultivating in your favor. If you're looking to attract abundance, feel abundance right now. If you're looking to attract calm, feel calm. If you're looking to attract love, feel love within yourself. You can't attract what you are not. You attract what you are. And when you learn to live this way, all of a sudden everything in which you desire is going to flow to you effortlessly because you are the magnet for which that thing is being drawn to. We spend our entire lives running after things, chasing things, reaching after things, not realizing that we are the magnet. We are the universe in which everything evolves around us derives from. And you can change that right now. You can sit here, you can close your eyes and feel that emotion. You can feel abundance. You can feel opportunity coming to you. And for some of you, that's going to feel incredibly unnatural. And of course it is, because that's how neuroplasticity works. You've been replaying the same thoughts and emotions and feelings over and over and over again in your mind, so it becomes natural to go through those motor neuron pathways, because that's the path of least resistance. That's the way in which your brain is going to go. Those feelings, those thoughts, those emotions are so normal to you, they are effortless. And to start cultivating the ones like abundance, like gratitude, like joy, like love, it takes a little bit of force, because it feels unnatural. You're not used to doing that. And of course you're not used to doing that, because your outer reality doesn't have abundance, doesn't have love. It's full of those negative emotions in which we're looking to push away. We can choose how we feel right now. You can close your eyes, you can feel that emotion, picture the reality in which you're looking to cultivate, and feel it. One thing you need to understand is that feeling and emotion is the language of the subconscious mind. That's what changes you. It's not affirmations, it's not visualization, it's the emotion in which that cultivates inside you. And that's why trauma is so powerful, because trauma is deep emotional scarring. You felt that emotion so deeply, it changed the way in which your subconscious works and views everything around you. If you can assume that feeling right now and hold that state as much of the time as possible, you have no choice but to cultivate everything which is in alignment with that thing. If you feel self-love, you will attract a loving partner. If you feel abundance, you'll attract more of that. If you feel gratitude, you're going to attract more of that gratitude and things which bring you that joy in your outer reality. Now let's jump into this 4-step process and how we can take all the teachings from what I've just spoke about into this. So first step is awareness. And Carl Jung spoke about this. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will dictate your life and you will call it fate. Because unless you are aware of a problem, you don't know that it's a problem and therefore you can't fix it. It's like a friend coming to you with these issues in which are coming up and they don't see that they're the problem. And you go, hang on a minute, you might be the trend here. But until somebody points it out to that person, they're going to think everything around them is conspiring apart from themselves. So become aware. The next step, dissolution. And one thing in which we're going to need to do through dissolution is break the ego, because as we explored earlier on in this video, the ego is there to protect itself. All your belief systems are the web in which your ego is held together. Your ego is quite literally trying to reinforce itself through the beliefs and through the outer reality in which it brings back to you. In order to destroy those limited beliefs and reinstall new ones, we have to dissolve the old ones. We have to remove those old beliefs. In order to do that, we have to dissolve the ego. Now, how are we going to do this? Through silence, through shutting yourself up for once, through stopping stimulation, through disassociating with the world in which you're in. And you can't listen to that voice inside until you shut off everything that's going on around outside it. And you sit in that silence, almost in a meditative state, and you can hear that voice of the ego. It's saying, make noise. He's saying, we don't need to do this. Why do we need to do this? This is boring. This is a waste of time. And that little voice is the ego trying so desperately hard to cling on. And the more in which you feel that resistance, the stronger in which the ego is. And you need to sit within that silence. You need to sit there and not pay attention to it. You need to push it aside. You need to resume self, push the ego aside to then remove the belief systems in which that ego is manifesting within you, so you can then create new ones. Once you've done that, you've dissolved the ego, we want to start repeating the beliefs in which we actually want to install. Now, we've got to remember that frequency is the most important part here. Frequency and intensity. I can probably include that as part of repetition. But we need to understand that in order to change those belief systems in which we have, we need to repeatedly lie to yourself. And you think, I can't lie to myself, I can't do it. But one thing I want to tell you is that everything in which you've already told yourself is a lie. You've already been disillusioned to believe the things in which you believe, right? All the things in which you believe, you were delusional to believe. You were delusional, but you made it make sense to you. You thought that thing was expensive and you convinced yourself it was. You convinced yourself that you're worthless when you're not. You convinced yourself you can't do these things. Therefore, you can be delusional to believe that you can. And that's simply done through repetition and emotional intensity. feeling that feeling of I can, lying to yourself through gritted teeth, catching those old thoughts coming up and replacing them with new ones. Every time you feel that voice in your head saying, I can't do this, I won't do it, this is impossible, I'm not good enough, you replace it and say, I can, I'm great, I can handle anything. And then you act upon that and you feel those emotions, you feel that intensity of I can, I'm powerful, I don't align with those negative things anymore, I only align with the positive. And this is where the next good part is going to come in, because this is how consciousness and change of habit works. It works like this. It works through the compounding effect, right? Most of you guys get stuck here. You get stuck in this period right here where you feel like nothing's changing. You're lying to yourself. You're saying, oh, you know, I'm good enough, but deep inside you're not. And your reality keeps showing you signs of that. If you continue pushing forward, what's going to happen is your reality is going to start showing you those signs back, and you're going to start to climb. And all of this progress will come so quickly. But right now you've been stuck right here. You've been lying to yourself. You've been saying, oh, I can do it. But deep inside you don't feel like you can. You haven't been applying that emotional intensity to the repetition of which you've been doing. You've been shouting your affirmations in the mirror. You've been saying, I'm good enough. I can do this. I'm going to make this money. I'm going to grow my business this. I'm going to win this. But deep inside you don't feel like you will. When you apply the repetition with the intensity, you genuinely feel like you can, your reality is going to start showing you signs of that. When your reality starts showing you evidence of the thing in which you're trying to cultivate as a belief, guess what? It becomes easy because your world is showing you signs that you are what you believe. The same way in which you convince yourself in the first place is now working in your favor. All of a sudden you start seeing those opportunities that you didn't see before, and you're like, there are lots of opportunities. Suddenly you start succeeding at work, or your business starts taking off because you deluded yourself into believing that it would do. And then you go, yeah, I'm good at this. It's only the way in which you learn any skill. When you start a new skill, you're shit at the skill. But you don't say to yourself, oh, I'm so shit at this, there's no point. You say, well, of course I'm not good at this because I haven't got the skills to learn. And the longer in which I put into this and learning, inevitably I will get good. It's like learning to drive the car. You weren't good at driving the car. You couldn't expect to get in a car and learn how to drive it. But we all understood that we needed lessons, we needed to learn how to do it. And then eventually we pass our test, we're driving for 3 months, we say I'm a good driver. Do you see how this works? You have to delude yourself, and then your reality will start showing you those signs back. And this is where this massive escalation will come, because your reality starts showing you the signs back. And what you've done is you have changed your outer world by changing your inner. And if you follow this framework, you can change your outer reality to be in line with whatever you want it to be, because you can change your inner.